Hello everyone, we're standing here today at World Hydrogen Week, organized by World Hydrogen Leaders. My name is Johann Wiebe from the Hydrogen Standard, and with me here today stands Dalia Majumder-Russell from CMS.
Hi, nice to be here.
Fantastic to have you, Dalia. So, you represent a corporate legal firm, a legal corporate firm, or legal firm. Can you tell them a little bit about what it is that CMS does?
Sure, so CMS is a global international law firm. We operate across a number of continents and 80 plus offices. And one thing that differentiates CMS from a number of law firms is we are very sector focused. And energy is one of the core sectors that CMS is very strong on. As a partner in the energy team, I lead on our hydrogen work, so I'm very excited to be here among so many people who do hydrogen, which means that I get to focus on the issues that really matter for this particular sector. And I'm surrounded by colleagues who work in the energy space, be it energy corporate matters, energy financing matters, energy consenting matters. The people at CMS who will do that energy work are your specialists. And that applies across our sectors. And so that's one of the reasons why clients come to CMS and hopefully stay with CMS.
Fantastic. Challenges, there are plenty in the industry, and legal advice is something very required by various parties in the industry as well. Can you tell us a little bit what sort of the legal industry can do to unlock some of the challenges that hydrogen projects are facing?
It's a really good question, Johan. As lawyers, we have the privilege of advising a number of different clients across the value chain in hydrogen. And as you say, it's a complex area, an area that's very dynamic. And there are plenty of opportunities, but also plenty of challenges. And where I think our clients really appreciate us being able to help them is in the fact that we can bring different learnings from across the piece. So for example, I started my career in renewable energy. So this is the time of feed-in tariffs, renewable certificates that are tradable. Then we moved to contracts for difference. So I'm an English qualified solicitor, so using the UK as a reference point, when the renewable industry, so your offshore wind, your solar projects, moved to the contracts for difference scheme, that was quite a philosophical challenge because we were moving from an established, well-known, well-understood renewable obligation certificate scheme to a brand new contractual-based mechanism. How is this relevant for hydrogen projects? Well, hydrogen now in the UK, the hydrogen business model is very much focused on the CFD regimes that we have across the low carbon space. It's also being done in parallel for the carbon capture and storage projects. So the dispatchable power agreement, which is for the CCUS projects, is similar to what is being offered for hydrogen projects. And so where do lawyers come in? We can look across the piece, we can look across the lessons learned from other industries, and therefore bring those suggestions, those solutions to our clients. But also we can look beyond it. We can look at across the other markets because we work in different jurisdictions and we have colleagues across the jurisdictions. We can pool together that knowledge and hopefully find some solutions that actually work.
Contracts for differences now also being applied in the hydrogen industry, as you sort of mentioned, maybe not to the same extent yet as in the renewable space. Also tying that in with sort of the lessons learned from the renewable industry. Can you tell us a little bit about that? In your view, what have you seen so far?
So one of the key success stories in contracts for difference has been a reduction in price. And what we saw was a huge drop in prices, especially for offshore wind projects. However, there's a very stark lesson here to be learned for hydrogen projects if we're going to push the same cost competition onto our projects. The renewable industry, when it moved to contracts for difference, had already had a decade or more of projects that we're developing. We're not there for hydrogen. We have some R&D projects, we have some demonstration projects that are operational, we have a number of projects currently in construction. So I would caution us against moving too fast to moving towards competitions and really trying to bring down the prices down while I completely champion the idea of value to consumers so that we don't lose out on some of those benefits that we had with the early renewables projects. And the second thing I would say that we learned from renewables, and this is not related to CFDs, is about building up a local supply chain. We in Europe didn't do that perhaps to the extent that we could have for the renewables industry. We have a new sector that we're building here. And we know our friends across the pond in the United States are very much focusing on local content. We in Europe also have an opportunity to build a local supply chain for our hydrogen sector. And that will give us the energy security as well as economic benefits, skills, jobs right here in Europe.
So do you see sort of like that development across the pond and also here in Europe then in terms of like moving towards more localization, sort of making sure to not incorporate transport, preferably obviously having a more positive impact on cost that way?
I think there is an element that we are seeing where it's more local, and that is also a result of the COVID pandemic and the disruption of the supply chains. So of course we will manufacture and we will do the activities in places where it makes sense. That said, there is benefits from an energy security perspective of making sure that we actually have a supply chain here. We have the skills here. A lot of the industrial processes that will be decarbonizing already have infrastructure here, already have people here who work in those industries. So deploying them towards this brand new sector allows us to continue utilizing the resources that we have.
Talking about resources, what is sort of for the legal industry, maybe one or 2 points or aspects that you focus on, sort of looking forward towards 2030?
There's not much time for 2030. So I work in infrastructure. So I work on contracts to build the infrastructure, but also on contracts that will help us regulate some of the frameworks that we have for hydrogen. So if I was going to pick 1 or 2 points that we were going to focus on in the rest of this decade, I would say we need to build our infrastructure, be it pipelines, be it the value chain for transport. Hydrogen storage, I think, is a huge piece of the puzzle that we need to focus much more on, because that's also really important for the demand side. And we've had a lot of policies focusing on the production of hydrogen, making sure that our demand is able to meet our production goals is critical in this. So I would focus on making sure that there's demand and infrastructure that allows us to meet that demand. And the second thing is traceability. We're all here today talking about low carbon hydrogen, decarbonisation, and yet we have different standards for definitions of what is green hydrogen. We are coalescing with what those definitions are, but we don't yet have a system for certifying and tracing what is low carbon hydrogen on a global scale. And I think focusing on developing a tradable market that's recognizing certificates from different jurisdictions would be incredibly helpful for building a global hydrogen sector.
Getting the legislation sort of right in local areas is already a challenge. Getting it harmonized across the board, fantastic. Hopefully we'll get there soon. Dalia from CMS, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Johann.